Group sponsor and legal advisory board member who's on with us. Steve, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Cliff. How are you doing?
Good. There's so much going on. Give us some.
Yeah, it's been quite the month, obviously, in a lot of different ways, as it always is. It's been quite the year since we've been going through things, and just thought I'd take some time today to talk about some issues regarding veterans in the law, and how that has sort of kind of, how do I put it, molded itself into what we've talked about this year, or the last year. If you recall, we talked about a couple things. One is, I think we had something to do with the change of the Ferris Doctrine, and if you recall, the Ferris Doctrine prevented people in armed services from bringing malpractice cases, medical negligence cases, when they were mistreated medically. And we've talked about the proposed legislation, which in fact went through last year, I should say, that now allows service members to be able to get around that preclusion, as we call it, and a service member can bring a case against the medical provider that they've been treated with. That we also have talked about during the year the suicides, and we had Stephen Handwerker, who was the second man in Iraq, if you recall, who, by the way, has a hearing loss case, and we're pursuing litigation for the hearing loss from 3M, the earplugs that really were allegedly not working. But Stephen told us that every day 20 people die. Military individuals commit suicide, take their own lives because of issues relating to what they've had to go through and the post-traumatic stress. Well, just a day ago, there was a lawsuit filed that charged the VA in really doing nothing to prevent a veteran from committing suicide in a parking lot. And this happened in Florida. And the place where it happened was a VA medical facility that literally was minutes away from a major VA facility that treated mental disabilities veterans. And in this case, the mother of a veteran who died by suicide at a Veterans Affairs Hospital parking lot filed an $8.25 million wrongful death lawsuit against the department. And what her lawsuit said was, she was the mother of a 29-year-old Navy veteran who had some issues, and her death, her son prevented suicide. But the interesting part is, the person who passed away, Gary Presley, his sister, on the day of the death, actually called the center and said that Mr. Presley, the person who committed suicide, was in possession of a gun. He was planning to harm himself. She told the operator exactly where Mr. Presley was located, and that was based on the GPS signal of the phone. Not one person from the VA hospital or the medical center attempted to locate or assist the person who shot himself. And instead, 3 hours later, he was found inside the VA parking lot, sitting in his car, and passed away. And this is sort of a problem, obviously, because it's kind of, how do I put it, indicative of what happens a lot over at the VA hospitals. I think the first issue that kind of relates to what we've been talking about is the terrible amount of suicides over the course of the year. I mean, 20 a day is too bad. And I think it's the helplessness that people and the veterans have when they come back home. But the second reason this is so important is that people have to stand up for their rights. And obviously, in this case, the mother of the person who committed suicide did. And I'm not saying it's going to be an easy case, but it is one that I think that hopefully will change the way that people at the VA look at people who are mentally disabled, and post-traumatic stress being part of it. So I'm hopeful that this lawsuit, as we follow it, will do some good.
And Counselor, this is we want all of our listeners to understand. That's called the Ferris Doctrine, right?
Well, the Ferris Doctrine, no, because the Ferris Doctrine was
Okay.
if you're in
I want to
current
make sure
medical,
people understand
if you're
this.
in
Yeah.
current active service, and then
right.
since
Yeah.
the boys
Yeah.
century about since if you were an active military person and you were malpracticed upon in an institution,
Right.
you were out of luck until just about
This
literally
has changed that, yeah.
6 months ago. Now this has to do with VA, and we do have lawsuits against the Veterans Administration. We all know that certain times the care is not good over there, but that's not the Ferris Doctrine. You have a right, if you're a veteran and you're malpracticed upon for any number of reasons, to be able to bring a lawsuit. You have to follow certain protocol to do that, but there's a lawsuit that's available. So that's different. Okay. And in this case, this is a mother of a decedent who it's against VA. He was already out of active service, apparently, from what I can tell.
Okay, I got you. I want to make sure we understand the difference because we had discussed that before.
Having said that, if he was in active service nowadays, there could be a malpractice lawsuit, whereas for a century there could not have been. So that's a major change in the law over the course of years. And I only bring the lawsuit against the VA up because I think it kind of brings to light the seriousness of post-traumatic stress, the fact that we still have 17 to 20 veterans a day taking their own lives because of hopelessness. And that's a real serious problem, So the other problem that we also see is the fact that a lot of veterans who come home may be because of injuries that they've sustained in the war theater or in the theater of their duties, they become addicted to opioids. And in fact, in the case that I just talked about, there was a kind of a tragic series of things with this person, and he actually was medically discharged from the Navy after a motorcycle accident. He was taking a series of opiate medications for chronic pain, and under the care of a private sector doctor paid for by VA funds. And we talked about that before. When you go to the VA, it doesn't mean you're getting a VA doctor. There might be private doctors. But however, in that case, the doctor stopped seeing VA patients over a payment dispute. And if you recall, the last time I was on, I think we had an amputation pay dispute, and the guy couldn't get it prosthetic, and they repossessed his leg. You remember that from last month?
I do, yes.
Yeah. In this case, the doctor stopped seeing VA patients. So this guy, Presley, the guy who killed himself, his prescriptions were disrupted, and he couldn't get his prescriptions filled. And he was in an awful lot of pain, and he just couldn't take it anymore. And he left a note to security personnel that said, "This is what happens by punishing already suffering people." And this is the quagmire that we see in the VA system that we've talked about also, that we have private doctors who stop all of a sudden working with the VA for payment issues. We have prosthetists, such as the last month, where they repossessed a leg from the fella because they weren't getting paid appropriate rates. So this is a problem, and I think we have to move to the next level. I know the veterans, the Department of Veterans Affairs is trying to do a good job. I think they're trying to help people now, and they have methods of following up after people are done with their service. But it is still a real issue, and especially the suicide is just a real tragic situation.
It certainly is, Counselor. Our call-in number, of course, is 312-374-8130. 312-374-8130. If, in fact, you want to ask the counselor a question or make a comment, we would be happy to hear from you. And by the way, America's Heroes Group is proudly sponsored by Attorney Steve Seidman, whom we are talking to now, Simon Margulis and Fairman LLP, 20 South Clark Street, 2 First National Plaza, Suite 700, Chicago, Illinois, 60603. Toll-free number is 888-837-3275. The office, 312-781-1977. And since we're talking about all of our folks, that we want to also mention America's Heroes Group is proudly sponsored by Pearl's Place Down Home Cooking, Southern Cooking, I should say, 3901 South Michigan Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 877-275-5852. Also, America's Heroes Group, She Serves, She Matters, partner and sponsor, National Women's Veterans United, NWVU. That's the National Women's Veterans United at 8620 South Pulaski. That's at the lower level, Chicago, Illinois, 60652. The office is 872-731-2150. The website, www.nwvu.org. And also, America's Heroes Group is proudly sponsored by Tuskegee Airmen, Inc., Chicago Dodo Chapter, Ken Rapier, our president, 8035 South Walcott Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60620, phone number 773-879-2698. Sometimes I get confused, because of the fact that we have such great sponsors, but we also have great folks that we want to talk to get the information out, which is what happened today. Of course, Steve Seidman is one of our best. And now we want to go to a caller, Roland. Hi, how are you, sir?
Hello?
Hi, Roland. Go right ahead.
Oh, I don't know how they link me with Roland, but I'll take anything that's a portal. This is a teacher over there from Phillips, Governor William Scott, Phillips High School.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, but I signed out.
I'm sorry,
right
I'm on my
left.
screen. I have Roland. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
But as I said, what I remember vividly for the Vietnamese period, I was signing students right out of Phillips High School, right and left, who couldn't cut it in English signs. Well, not my class, of course, they didn't have any problem. But, there were students who left high school because of academic matters and ended up in Vietnam. When I just heard the attorney mention repossession, I said, oh, Lord, please, I hope I didn't hear that, because damn. I mean,
last month,
I know this is America. Make America great again, America the beautiful, but repossession of a damn limb, because what I remember, Cliff, even though I have no military experience, but I'm very sensitive to anybody's situation, when I heard that the price rates for prosthesis and things of that sort is almost like the stock market. If you're in Oregon, it's one thing. If you're in Mississippi, it's another. If you're in Georgia, a finger, a leg. Could you ask the attorney to kind of give me a 2020 perspective? Do we still have a patchwork quilt after all of the politicians claim everybody's for the veterans? Do we still have a situation where you got to know which state you should even seek the services you need because of different pay rates for something as basic as a prosthesis, arm, leg, or whatever it might be? And Cliff, I'll get back to you later because Phillips is having a 50th reunion, and we want to plug in with you regarding that, especially our veterans.
Who is having a 50th?
Sponsor. Blessings to you for that.
Okay, I'll be more than happy to. You're great. As always, William Scott.
By the way, great question.
Yeah.
And in fact, there are so many different pay rates. Thank you for asking that question, because if you went to Medicare is going to pay one thing for a leg or an arm or an eye. A private insurance company will pay another. A workers' compensation carrier will pay another. The Veterans Department of Affairs will pay another, because, there is specific provision for the veterans for prosthetics. So the fact of the matter is, it's exactly right. It's like the roulette wheel. You put it in, you see if you get red, black, number. And in that particular case, that poor guy's leg was repoed, just like a car was repoed, because there wasn't payment to the one who made the prosthetic device. And that's because there was a snafu between Medicare and the Veterans Administration to pay that leg. That should never happen, and we've seen that happen a lot. So that's the answer to that question. Thank you for asking it. And I wanted to just mention a couple of other issues that came up this week. and I'll say this one very briefly, but as it relates to law and what we're seeing with the rule of law kind of taking a little bit of flexibility lately. But here's a situation where a Marine recruit, just like a recruit that we just talked about with the gentleman before, was arrested for allegedly striking a drill instructor at boot camp. So he was in San Diego. He got mad. He punched a guy in the face. Well, that's all well and good. He punched his commanding officer, the drill instructor. The problem is they put him into jail, into the Marine brig. Do you know how long? It's been 2 years.
Oh,
he hasn't had a trial. He hasn't had charges levied against him. So his due process, he's been sitting there absolutely just in limbo. And that just came out a couple days ago. And I think that these are the type of things that, listen, we all have fits of anger. There's road rage. There's this or that. But you shouldn't sit in jail for 2 years without even a charge being leveled against you in a situation like that.
Counselor, as always, you give us great information. We just appreciate your continue to give us. And thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day.